I put together a doc, so
All right.
you know.
Welcome, everyone. Hope you guys are
Hello,
having a
hello.
great day. So, this is the start of the pre-show. So, I know normally we start at this time for the actual show, but we are running slightly behind. And by we, I mean me. McLeod was in the right place at the right time, and I quite definitely wasn't. Uh, True benefits of, let there be light.
Ooh.
Um, so yeah, true benefits of that. So, fun week in New World, that's for sure.
it's been a bit of a roller coaster ride, right?
Yeah, it has been it has been a
Uh,
week. That is for sure.
Not the best of weeks. Um, Hopefully not the worst. Hopefully
Hopefully
one
the
of the
worst
worst.
week. Like
Yeah, hopefully the worst. Hopefully there's nothing. Hopefully the weeks don't get worse from here. But it's been pretty. Yeah, it's been pretty crazy. It's been pretty crazy in mm, a lot of bad ways, actually.
absolutely. Absolutely.
you know,
Seeing a lot of
I
new
mean,
names here. Good to see everybody new in chat.
and the funny thing is, like, a lot of people kind of, a lot of people talk, about the fact that like we put a rose tinted kind of view on New World's sort of like development. Yeah, you're probably gonna see a lot more criticism this week than most weeks.
Yeah. It's it's been a rough week. There's
Oh yeah.
no sugarcoating that. Want the map on the wall? How do you get one? That map is available on our Discord. The file is there, and you just bring it to a print shop, and they make they turn it from file to print. That's what I did.
Yep.
Awesome. Yeah. For those that don't know, we have a ton of files like that. All of the original concept files, pretty much everything that's been released about New World, we have
Hmm.
on our Discord. So
Yeah. So I don't know. We generally tend to the original idea of doing a pre-show was like actually us getting set up and ready for the actual show, but like eh, broadcasting it to you regardless because we think maybe you guys might be interested in it, and we can kind of like just converse and be much more chilled, much more casual.
hmm
And I hope you guys like it. I hope
is
you
this an
guys enjoy
official
it.
New World channel? We're an official New World content creator.
But we are not developers.
We are not
There's a
developers, though.
key difference.
Yes. I'm realizing my camera is like just ever so slightly tilted. There we go. Everything was just a little askew.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
There we go.
Oh, thank God, Yeah, it was bugging me. I was like, something's off. I don't know what it is, but something is just slightly 5 degrees off.
Yep. I'm glad you sorted that out. Right. I'm just gonna get myself sorted. I will be back in about 5.
Absolutely. Redbird with the heavy raid, 173.
Oh,
Thank you. It's good to see you.
thank you.
It's good to see. It's great to see Redbird streaming. For those that don't know, Redbird is one of the partners of ours when it comes to Studio Loot. And Studio Loot also being the group that is behind NewWorldFans.com. So, Absolutely.
your premier destination for New World guides and all that jazz.
Hmm. Yeah. Much love, Redbird. Much love. Hope your stream was good tonight. Um, so obviously we got a ton to talk about tonight. We have news from the devs on so many fronts. We've got a ton of just rough times. What kind of paper am I using for the map? It's actually it's like a photo printer paper. It's definitely not a normal one. Yeah. Hey, it's great to hear. It's great to hear the first day of full time was going good. That's awesome, man. That is awesome. Yeah, let's see here. Just getting everything going. Um, yeah. So good times all. Good times all. It's a great time to be talking about New World. It's a rough time to be talking. It's a challenging time for the game. That's for sure. It's very challenging times. Do I work for New World? No, I do not. I am a content creator through and through. So is McLeod. We do not work for the studio in any way. We are just very interested parties who happen to be I think close to the studio would be the right way to put it, but we're not affiliated with the studio in any way, other than the content creator program. I need my trading post. Oh, dude, I know the feeling. They're like right now cutting down the trading post, trading between players, and all of that is absolutely killing me. Absolutely killing me. Any content creator drops? That is a good question. Not sure if the not sure if the Prime Gaming stuff is still on. I have a feeling it stopped like just the other day. Because there was where is it? There was the Robin Hood set that was getting handed out for Prime members. I was trying to dig down to where that was. When is the next open world transfers? So I believe they were trying to try out some stuff last night, according to Kay. Is our podcast only on Twitch? We transfer this over to YouTube as well, and we're going to be slowly developing a Spotify, iTunes version as well, so that we can get out there a few more ways, and of course, like the pre-show wouldn't be a part of the of those versions, but yeah, absolutely. We are developing our YouTube. We got 2 guys on board that I'm looking forward to a lot of the work they're doing. Um, Great guys, and they're kind of working on like the editing aspect of things after the fact, which I think will be pretty good. Like I've got high hopes for them. So any recent update about the market situation? I think we're um, expecting to see potential patch notes tonight. Um, there was an update earlier today. Um, Several updates. Actually, one 5 minutes ago. Yeah, literally 5 minutes ago. This is why we make sure to check for this stuff. Will there be a show tonight? Absolutely. Um, yeah, definitely. Like, don't accept random gold from people. I know Amazon like basically started the process of banning a large number of people. Um, Basically, if you're involved in any of the duping, there's gonna be bans going out. A lot of bans. Um, I think that there's actually like there's a good discussion that needs to be had about um, really about the value of getting exploits widely used versus like letting developers have time to fix them. Um, this came up on Reddit today, and I'm not sold on the logic. Um, Fundamentally, the what was brought to Reddit is oh well we need to make sure that these exploits are seen and that we force the developer's hand into fixing them. And I'm like, but that also gives them no time to fix it and causes an infinitely larger problem to try and clean up. So, like, just not a huge fan of the logic used uh, by people when it comes to that.
So I wanna. You know, I'm just sorting my sound out real quick. Sorry. Should be good.
Yeah, Reddit right now is a bit of a shit show, being totally honest. Um, Depending on who you ask, I'm a combination of because I'm one of the moderators over on the subreddit. Uh,
Okay.
you know, it's pretty comical. The mod team is either the worst thing ever, or all we're either all powerful and trying to hide problems, which like if anybody's spent more than 5 minutes on the subreddit, obviously isn't the case. Um, or we're completely inept, not there. Like, yeah, an
That
interesting time, that's for sure.
should be should be fairly loud and decent in terms of sound, as far as you can tell.
Yeah, as far as I can tell.
Yeah. Okay. So one of the things about when it comes to exploits, when it comes to all of that kind of jazz, is how do you report it and how do you report it responsibly, right? And we find a lot of people claiming that it's irresponsible to, to basically remove posts or to, basically play, not play down, but basically, uh, yeah, essentially remove posts where people are complaining or people are trying to spotlight exploits. Now, I personally kind of feel that if the spotlight, if the person who's spotlighting the exploit is spotlighting the exploit uh in a way that shows you exactly how to do the exploit, that's not good. And in all honesty, you can you can spotlight an exploit without showcasing reproduction steps. Um, the unfortunate thing is, I know that when it comes to posting a bug report in the New World forums, the kind of like the template that they want you to use asks for reproduction steps, and unfortunately, that is kind of like it's a throwback to when the it's basically the same template that they used for when we were posting bug reports for when the game was in alpha. And obviously, when the game is in alpha, the forums are not open to public. They're only open to alpha people who are have the privilege to be in the alpha in whichever way, shape, or form they're able to get into it. So the reproduction steps weren't, asking for reproduction steps weren't a big issue. Obviously, when it comes to the game being live and the forums being open to the public, when you have a situation, when you have a situation where uh, people are putting reproduction steps because they're being asked for reproduction steps in in the template, it kind of doesn't really work from a production standpoint to stop this, like stop like stem the tide of people abusing it when you're being asked for reproduction steps and you're putting it in there. I kind of I'm just really confused as to why nobody at AGS kind of saw this and kind of thought, maybe we might want to change this or remove the post that says, that asks people, when filling in bug reports, to give reproduction steps. It kind of almost it makes no sense. It's literally it's it's literally kind of like screwing them over. Yeah. Yeah, and by the way, we're just kind of chill at this point. The pre-show is a chill thing. Like we're not really going full bore at this particular point.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've done moderation when it comes to games that have a lot of a lot of very involved types, a lot of uh, tribalistic kind of tendencies, and a lot of competitive people who get very irate and very salty when it comes to, winning and losing and that kind of stuff. And so I've experienced the whole, uh, you know, people, you know, going right up to the line and passing over the line of using exploits and exploiting various different bugs and stuff. So I I know where, I know how kind of people kind of you know act when it comes to these sorts of things. And when it comes to moderating this sort of stuff, you have to be very open, you have to be very transparent, and you have to be understanding to people who, you know, want to be competitive, but don't want to be behind the curve. So you kind of need, in that kind of sense, like whenever I've done moderation when it comes to sort of that sort of stuff, I've always said, like, as soon as we've confirmed that there's a bug that's going about that is being exploited or is an exploitable kind of thing, we kind of post something up saying this is a bug, this is exploitable. At this particular point in time, you have, you shouldn't do, you have an hour from this post, you know, to stop exploiting this bug. After that point, anybody who's exploiting this bug is essentially, going to be banned. Because you can't kind of retroactive this shit. It's not fair. Like it's not kind of fair, especially in a competitive environment. Like being retroactive in it is, you know, a little unfair.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely going to be difficult. Um,
And the thing is, like, a lot of people kind of expect, because it's Amazon, they expect like the reaction and the professionalism, and the efficiency to be that of, Blizzard or Bungie or Rockstar, right? They're a new company. Yeah, it might say Amazon on the label of it, right? But they are a new house, a new production house. They haven't sorted out all of their processes. Yeah, they've had X number of years to create this, but like going from a closed production kind of environment to something that's live and that you're interacting with the general public, and you have all the intricacies that, in when you involve the general public, with a product, there's a lot more that goes on, and there's a lot more processes that you have to evolve and you have to mature very, very fast in order to get a handle on things. And it's like, I mean, for one thing, using Lumberyard, and we'll touch on this because we've got a little bit on about Lumberyard for the show, but like the all the various different intricacies and all the various different kind of details when it comes to how they implemented Lumberyard, in various different ways, has proved to be a real pain for them, a real pain for the development process. Not to say that it could potentially be beneficial in the long run, but in the at this particular point in time, it's not exactly helping them. It's very much hindering them in a lot of different ways. Hey, what up, crypto?
yeah. Yeah, it's
And the thing is,
yeah.
as well as regarding those two games that they failed before New World, like a lot of new development studios, fail their first few products. Like it's just the case. Like you don't remember them because you forget about them because they end up being, they're forgettable. You end up remembering the first hit. You end up remembering, the big, you know the good things that happen, from a development company. So we're living through something that people think should be, amazing right from the outset. And people are forgetting about the fact that, like, even though it says Amazon, they're a new company, they're a new development studio, and they have to evolve and mature their processes. And we're seeing what immature and lesser evolved processes look like when it comes to a large scale, you know, live MMO. And that's honestly, MMOs are the hardest things to do.
Mm-hmm.
They have a lot more going on. There's a lot more, a lot more on the line.
Yeah, it's definitely like it's definitely very different.
Super Smash Bros doesn't have an online, doesn't have a virtual economy that they have to deal with. I'm just saying,
yeah,
you know.
yeah. Obviously, many of these bugs shouldn't exist, and are obvious priorities of theirs at this point. Um, you know, I want to take a couple of minutes and talk about Reddit here, which is always a dangerous topic.
your
Um,
your favorite pastime.
yeah, it's definitely a not very worthwhile thing to be doing.
How many times have you been called a Nazi in the last 24 hours?
More than I would like, way more.
Mm.
It's so. Here's the deal. One, we technically have a rule on the subreddit that exploits aren't to be shared there. Um, we use an auto mod on the subreddit as well. Like unironically, I know that that's been a whole thing. I'm going to stop this thing from automatically doing its thing. Um,
Does it just
and
does it auto focus on when you turn it on or something? Like
yeah, yeah.
it's
So
just so
obviously,
annoying.
yeah. So the
Oh.
subreddit uses an auto mod. That auto mod is programmed to look for certain things to keep people in compliance with the rules. Like there's certain words that obviously, trigger the auto mod to ensure that a person has to review a comment before it goes up or review a thread before it goes up. Um, we have not been actively removing exploit threads because frankly, we don't have enough time. You know, we have a very small team of people that is hiring. And when I say hiring, I mean we're not paying anybody. So, nobody on the current team is getting paid. So this is what you get: volunteer effort, and frankly, you have a team that was used to managing 20,000 people, managing 330,000 people. Um, it's a substantially larger task, and of course, people aren't happy, which means when people aren't happy, the moderation queues get exceedingly long, and all of a sudden you end up with, these mods are terrible, my post got taken down because I'm a salty, whatever. And it's like, I get that your post was taken down by the auto mod, but like, it's going to take us a few minutes to, more than a few minutes. It's going to take until the next person comes online to actually go through the mod queue and fix it. So like that's how every subreddit is run. Um, you know, it is what it is. Thanks for the sub, by the way. You know,
Saying that and talking about auto mods and all that kind of jazz. Like we had one of our members actually got modded earlier today for
mm-hmm.
something completely mundane, and you know what? It very much seemed as though it was uh, a a report that wasn't really looked too heavily into, and so he responded and talked to the described the situation and what could have potentially unfolded, and included an image of conversations being had talking about how somebody's going to get they're going to mass report somebody or whatever, and lo and behold, he got unbanned. So
Absolutely. Uh, oh, it turns out it was a warning and not a ban.
oh, okay.
Still,
It was a one.
he should appeal the
Okay.
warning and basically be like,
Yeah,
hey,
yeah.
like, yeah,
But he
um,
couldn't log into the game, as far as
yeah.
I know.
To also answer to some of the accusations against some of the mods on the subreddit. No, we are not actively exploiting ourselves. Obviously,
Yep.
like if anybody's watched our show for like the last 2 years, we're probably the last people to want to break the rules,
I
um,
mean,
and
there's
certainly wouldn't want to risk getting banned. And like,
yeah,
look at my stream for a second, and let me kind of like paint a picture about things that might be fun about how we do things and like our interest level in the game and wanting to continue to be able to play that game. You know,
yeah,
just putting
might
it
be
out there.
worthwhile us like not doing something that impedes what we're doing or what we want
Exactly.
to do.
Exactly.
You know,
You know, we're not here to cause problems. We're not here to, to do that. If anything, we're here to just have
but,
fun and enjoy the game. That's been the message of our
but
stream for the last year and a half.
yeah, but saying
You know.
that, we're not going to sit here and say that the game's fine. Game's fine. Don't worry. Like no, like there is definitely some issues that AGS needs to seriously resolve. And I was talking about it earlier. They have a lot of processes that are very immature and very you know like not up to standard right now. They need to sort those out. You know,
Mm-hmm.
there's there there's ways of saying that without utilizing a bunch of swear words. Like you don't need to utilize a bunch of swear words to say that Amazon needs to sort of pick up their game.
Absolutely.
But I would say that I did note kind of uh, a funny comment that the duelist said a little earlier though, like every bug has an exploit that fixes it. uh, I love that mentality. Duelist is like, oh, it's not a bug, it's a feature. You know, don't worry, the next bug is going to fix the next bug is gonna help relieve the pain of the previous bug.
Yes. Yeah. It's right now. It's bugception. You
it,
know.
it is kind of bugception right now, and I totally get people's frustration with wanting to play the game at this point in time with the amount of bugs that you know that cause endless consternation in various different areas of the game. Like just the fact that I mean we'll get into this a little bit more in the actual show, but like just some of the retroactive kind of steps that New World has taken also has taken away a lot of aspects of the game that people really like. For example, the trading post, right? Um, that's to a lot of people that's a really annoying one. To some people that isn't really a big deal, but that's the thing. This game is so varied that there's various different aspects of the game that people love and people don't really care about. But that's the thing. It has a varied kind of player base. And so when you remove something, it's going to obviously affect somebody in some way, shape, or form. And you remove one tiny aspect of the game, and you'll find out that you know there's a subgroup of the community where that aspect that was just removed or just disabled or temporarily down for whatever reason, that was their entire reason for logging in each and every day. It's
Mm-hmm.
it's a crazy thing, and I've seen this in so many in other games as well. Like we sometimes utilize our experience with Eve Online before. Like I know aspects of Eve that the developers literally just straight out removed. No real rhyme or reason to it, but just straight up removed, and people's like online virtual jobs, their virtual income in that game was just straight up gutted, for no real reason, and there was no real kind of explanation for it. It's just GG.
Mm-hmm.
So it happens in so many different games.
Yeah. On the topic of the gold sellers, by the way, they have actually put in a lot of effort to identify, the root cause of that problem. They even created its own its own report category so they can quicker go through that. Yeah.
So
It's definitely
yeah,
like a challenging time. Like our hopes is that the devs, start releasing some patches that fix do more fixing than breaking. Because obviously like
like that lever
the
thing of
game is in a
like
troubling state right now.
it's like that it's like that lever slash toggle thing. The meme on Reddit where you push one toggle, you push one toggle off, it turns two toggles on, and push one of those two toggles, doesn't do anything. Push the other one to three toggles turn back on again. It's like, yeah,
Yeah.
kind of feels like that sometimes. But that's development. That's game development. You know,
Yeah.
that's the unfortunate thing of game development. But the thing is, like, this is Amazon coming to the realization, coming to terms with the realities of uh supporting a live game. And they said that they wanted to support this game for like 10 years. So, it's it's time to put on the daddy pants, Amazon.
Yes. Um, that said, they're hiring. I was
Yeah.
looking at their jobs website earlier, and they've got I think 148 positions. Um, Given that's also shared with Prime Gaming, which is a different thing. But yeah, they definitely need to increase staffing. They need to increase QA. They need to hammer down on a lot of the problems that they're facing right now. Um, and the thing is, a lot of their team are veterans in the gaming development space. Um, you know, that's very much a thing. Um, they and the thing with like a public test realm is that they have one, because we can see it on Steam's thing as a branch. The challenge to that is that there are so many problems with the live version that they're trying to rapidly fix the live version, which I get, but personally at this point I think they need to just slow down, and which is probably like everybody's least favorite sentence. Slow down and get it right. Um,
Don't
yeah.
run if you can't even walk. Don't try and run if you can't even walk yet. So the other thing as well is the amount of feedback, the amount of support, the amount of feedback support ticket. I mean, I use the term support tickets because for various different reasons, but like the amount of various different um, types of feedback that Amazon gets uh, from a community that at one point was close to 1 million concurrent players, is fairly colossal. Um, you know, I'm not sure whether we actually have a sort of numbers as to how big the actual player base is in terms of size. Um,
We don't know what the
Fair, I haven't
total is,
actually.
and here's the thing: like with the launch being when it was, we're gonna see numbers shift towards the holidays here. Because
Yeah,
obviously we have Thanksgiving coming up, we have Christmas a month later. There's gonna be a lot more people with a lot more time. How can I have a neutral opinion while I'm wearing a New World hat?
it's fine.
You know, do you really think them giving me a hat is enough to buy me?
Yeah,
Like, you know, it's a
If you can
hat.
be bought just
Like,
by a single hat, then like you have you have no like reason to even be doing a talk
uh,
show, let alone doing a talk show for 2 years. You know,
yeah,
um,
like, you
and
know,
to be completely honest, he didn't get that hat, 2 years ago.
yeah,
We've been doing this for 2 years, if not more. So
like, it's one of those things where it's like, here's the thing: everybody wants to attack people right now because they're frustrated, because they're, etc. You know, here's the thing: obviously, I'm a fan of the game. Like,
yeah.
who isn't? Now, do I think that New World needs triage at this point? God, yeah. Like, I'm not stupid, you know.
I mean, you got a Pokemon ball like behind you there. Like I hope you don't have any dissenting opinion on Pokemon in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah,
Like, because how can you? You've got a Pokemon ball behind
yeah, you know.
you.
I
Oh
just
my
like
God! You wear
the
clothes. I hope you
logic
don't have a.
required to be like, oh, he's got clothes, and he's got a hat and a map and and stuff behind him that's like, related to uh the game, therefore he can't possibly have, an unbiased opinion.
Oh
you
my
know
God! He lives in a Western society. Like, I hope he doesn't have any critique on Western society. Like,
yeah,
because that's null and void clearly, because he lives in a Western society. Like,
yeah,
how does this logic, like this, that's where you go. That's the final destination for that logic chain, right? It is like, how can you stream, how can you have any kind of opinion whatsoever if you're presenting your opinions online? Like,
yeah,
I just oh, for fuck's sake.
yeah. I just
I sometimes wonder about
It
that
is what it
logic.
is. The reason I'm wearing the hat tonight, by the way, is because I didn't take a shower immediately before the stream, which I normally do, and I woke up late. So, like, I'm wearing the hat because my hair is a mess. I know. I know. It's terrible that I rolled out of bed and decided that, now was the time that I wanted to wear a New World hat. You know, yeah, this is the pre show.
Yeah,
This
well,
is still the pre show,
it's
guys.
the pre-show because we're like we're just spitballing right now. Yeah. And,
Yeah.
and we have dumb opinions that sometimes ends up in articles.
Yes. Yes. And like, here's the thing, guys. Like,
Because they're hot takes.
you know, the comical part of a lot of the accusations and a lot of the attacks and a lot of the crap that's going on right now. Especially when it involves, me, the subreddit, etc. Like, fundamentally, people are frustrated at something else and they're taking it out on the first person they see. The Reddit moderation staff allowed this to happen for 2 weeks before it was seen. It's been on the forums the whole time, guys. Like, they literally have a section that it's been reported in the entire time. You know, it takes time.
Yeah.
These things take time to fix.
Also,
Yeah,
just to make sure that you kind of sorted it, but my camera's on, so just saying that, like, you can sort it out before the actual show goes actually live. Like, I don't know, just a thought.
yep, it's there.
Okay, good.
Yep. Um,
Oh, I mean, no, I think they may have had an idea as to how hard uh doing a live service MMO would be. I think maybe they didn't realize quite uh how colossal a job it would be. Oh, A's is taking on FaceTime. Yeah, of course. In the
yeah.
pre-show, it's all A's,
Well, so
and that's
the
all good.
reason we do this is that, like, I could put both of us up on here, like, but most of the
I'm
time during the pre-show, McLeod's camera's off, because like
yeah,
the we're
I'm
trying to like prep for stuff.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
And I
saying that,
agree. I agree with
we
chat
do more
here.
than just
I
we
agree
do
with
more than
chat here.
just like, yeah, we do
The
more than just like we prep for an hour before the actual show. Like we've had a doc up for the various different talking points for the show up for a few days, but you know, um, but it's one of those things that we were always we were always wondering when we were kind of getting ready for the show and just like chatting about show topics and stuff like that. But we kind of thought like, shouldn't we just like stream this as well? Wouldn't that be kind of like a cool thing just to have conversations with the people in the stream chat as well as with ourselves with each other? So long as we're completely fine and understanding that this is going out onto Twitch. And like, yeah, that's fair enough.
Hmm. Spicy topics. There's a lot of spicy topics today.
There's
Got
going to be some spice. There's going
got
to
a
be some
we've
spice.
got a
But
full episode tonight. But next week, Duelist. Let's talk PvP. I'm hoping that tonight there's going to be some fixes.
The hopefully it
Yeah.
won't be the talk about how flat the PvP is. And to be completely honest, Duelist, I definitely was very interested in watching your video of the um, dueling tournament. The 1v1 PvP tournament that you did a YouTube of. That was really really good. Um, yeah, like that. You guys should check that out.
Absolutely.
I'll find the link for it. Actually.
Do you think the dev team is panicked behind the scenes? I think they're working overtime behind the scenes. That's for sure.
Probably, yeah.
Um, I would say it would be healthy for them to be concerned right now. Um, you know, this is obviously a challenging time for them. And I think people need to remember that there are people on the other side of this. You know, so the damage that's being done, um, by people actively exploiting and actively causing problems for the game, fundamentally, um, you know,
I just want to say this.
yeah.
I'm terrible at typing today for whatever reason. So I'm sorry that I completely screwed up your name there, journalist. Random
Yeah.
you in the middle of it.
So, are you happy with New World at the moment? There are parts of New World that I'm still happy with. There are a lot of parts of New World that I'm not thrilled with at the moment. Um, like for me, one of the biggest things that I've been looking forward to is Outpost Rush, which is now basically Hatchet's Online, due to
Yeah,
the
yeah.
against all odds problem.
Which
And
sucks because I
then
really like my Great Axe Lifestyle gameplay.
yeah, and then of
I'm
course
used
there's
to it.
other
It's
other
nice.
issues right now that are causing other problems. Perks not working, perks working too well, light, heavy, and etc. Like just causing more problems. Like simply put, the game's in a rough state right now. Give it
Oh yeah.
another month, 2 months. Hopefully they've got everything sorted. Um,
I
but
so I highly
it's
doubt they'll get
painful right
everything
now.
sorted, but I highly doubt they're going to get everything sorted in 2 months' time. But like, I think in 2 months we will definitely know whether this game is in its more in a trajectory that's moving to better things.
Hmm.
So yeah.
From the perspective of me being tired, I did just wake up, literally. So don't read in too much to that.
Are you, Julius? You sure? Are you sure it's not a rush to you know? Oh crap! What is it? Yeah. Are you sure? Are you sure? Are you sure it's a rush to T3 camp buff, or are you sure it's not just a rush to getting as many brute tokens as possible?
Yeah, both. uh,
Both
so
both is well not good, but
here's a good question from chat.
the
Should we support an unfinished game which was given to us? Wouldn't by doing so, and of course Whiskey Tango Foxtrot, thanks you for the sub. Much appreciated. Wouldn't by
I
doing
wonder what
so,
beef is.
we would show the other game studios that it is okay to release such an unfinished game.
They do anyway. Have you not heard of EA? Like,
Unfortunately, EA exists as a studio
hello.
and has been
Like,
pioneering the forefront of releasing unfinished games for
but
many years.
but I'd like to ask this to the audience. What MMO is released in a completely finished state? There is no MMO that ever is released in a completely finished state. They are always constantly adding stuff to it. You look at what in game development what is meant by alpha, beta. You know, honestly, alpha, like from a development standpoint, is defined by major mechanics still being implemented into the game.
Hmm.
Beta is just, you've got to the point where all of the major kind of mechanics, the major kind of elements of the game are in, and you're just solving and removing kind of quirks and bugs and that kind of thing. Like MMOs are in a constant state of development because you're constantly adding both content, and you're also taking, at some point you're completely removing mechanics and completely refactoring them, and adding new mechanics in. Like it's, when you talk about a finished game, like that kind of terminology just does not fit MMOs.
Yeah, and we 100% agree. New World has bugs that should not have been in on release.
Oh yeah, like
Absolutely,
sure.
absolutely, 100%. Like, do like if there is anything that people gain from this stream, it is that we 100% agree that there are bugs that should have been fixed from the alpha, from the beta, etc., that made it into the live version. There are versions of some of these bugs that, even according to, even according to their release manager Kay, um, they did fix, gold duping that was an issue in one of the betas, and apparently this is a separate bug related to that, you know, um, which, they've got an interesting thing on there that, like, they recognize that it looks like they didn't do anything, um, and that's honestly a huge problem. I'm not here to sugarcoat anything for the studio. I don't work for them. Like, I just want to enjoy the game. So
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to the other side of this. I want there to be more, you know I want the content to be there. I want the game to be just fixed. It's not right now.
yeah.
Um which is rough. And yeah, it's a rough time. Um
No, it is. It is. And they're honestly, yeah, fair enough. There's people who are kind of out there, kind of saying, what about this MMO? What about that MMO? Like most of those MMOs that are, being used as examples of MMOs that were released in a decent state were not the first MMO of that particular, well, not genre, but like of that particular thing. Like, Guild Wars 2, for example. Well, what about Guild Wars? Right? You know, um, there's, you talk about, say, I mean, this isn't an MMO, but like in the same sort of guise, like, maybe talk about like how smooth or how good a Assassin's Creed game, like a new Assassin's Creed game is. Well, the thing is, the reason for that is because, you know, um, you know, developing Assassin's Creed, the next Assassin's Creed game, has all of the knowledge, all of the experience, and all of the techniques and methodologies of all of the previous games, you know, like backing it. You know, Amazon Games doesn't really have that for New World. Like, but you have to start somewhere. This is the thing, you have to start somewhere.
Hmm. And there's going to be some learning pains for them. I mean, obviously we're seeing a lot of the learning pains for them. Um, Now, going back to the question of should we support an unfinished product, um, fundamentally no. I happen to like New World. I think it has a positive future down the road. I think it's got a different future than had things gone a different way. Um, but this is what we have right now. We've a lot most if not all of us have already paid for the game in one way or another. So now
Yeah,
it's you know let's hope that the devs pull this out of the dumpster and fix it.
yeah, because it's not looking that good right now.
Hmm.
But like, so the other thing is, you can kind of say that, but aren't the developers in in Amazon games, like, they're not new developers, they're not like fresh rookies kind of thing. They are they're veterans of former development studios, that kind of thing. So how can they you know uh, why do we have to cut them some slack, saying that they are like a new development studio when they're full of veteran developers? Well, as much as individual development talent is a good thing to have, it's not the be all and end all of how a development's like. If you want to have a sort of an example to kind of go with, it's kind of like a sports team, right? You can have some really good talent in the team, but the team can still do terrible because their interplay between all of them is just terrible. The coach that's coaching them, and the tactics that they're using is just terrible, right? You need to have all of the interplay between all of the intricacies, all the kind of stuff that like binds all of this talent together to actually make a good game. In the same
Hmm.
way that you need all of the support networking, all of the team play, all of the sort of all of that kind of stuff, between individual members of a sports team, to make it a good team. It's the
Hmm.
same thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So how long should we support the game until how long do we give them to fix things? You know, um,
How
frankly,
long's a piece of string? Like, it's kind
yeah,
of difficult.
I
Everyone has their own idea of that, right?
yeah, and I mean you can tell that that's not a firm line for everyone because it's look at the player graph. Obviously, like hype, there was a lot of hype around launch. I think
Hmm.
people got keys or they got into the game. They decided, hey, you know, there's some bugs here. I'm gonna, some people just decided right off the break, hey, I bought the game, but I'm gonna wait until December to play it. Um, and there are some people like us who like we play every day. Um, like there is still plenty of content to enjoy. That said, there is a lot of bugs right now. There was a lot of problems that need to be addressed, and hopefully they can hammer out as many of those as physically possible, as quick as possible.
And like, seeing some of the stuff in chat, like,
Um,
the other kind of thing is like a lot of bugs that some people experience are very particular to their kind of, either particular to you know their setup, or their geographic location, that kind of thing. Like, um there's situations that bugs present themselves to certain people, and other bugs, that same bug doesn't present to 99% of the other players. Like, and it's difficult trying to say, trying to say to a development studio or to support staff that this bug is literally destroying my will to play the game because it's so pervasive for me, and so destructive for my enjoyment of the game, right? But if it's not something that's shared with a lot more people, then it's something that isn't prioritized as well, because unfortunately, when it comes to sort of a game that is, is and was as popular as New World was when it, the initial kind of launch, like, it's very much a numbers game when it comes to setting priorities.
All right. With that, we got to start the show.
Hmm. Yes.
So we're going to run through our intro quick, and then we're going to be off to the races with the content. Um, you know, it's going to be a good time. Hopefully, you guys enjoy the show. We do aim to be a little bit on the interactive side. Obviously, the pre-show is a little bit more casual, then the show is a little bit more scripted, where we have a plan to run through specific content. We are potentially looking at patch notes tonight, so we're in the process of waiting for those. So with that, let's get things going.
Yeah.
Welcome everybody to the NWO show, your source for everything New World. Obviously, this week is a challenging week for New World. It is a different. This is going to be a little bit different of a show. We've got a lot to cover. We've got potential for patch notes. We haven't heard anything one way or the other, but there is a potential that they could drop at any time now. So we will be keeping an eye out for those. As well as some other content, or a lot of other content. But first, let's talk about last week.
Yes.
Last week, we got the patch for Outpost Rush, and the first iteration, or new iteration of server transfers, which instantly had more problems.
Yeah. Interestingly enough, those patch notes for that patch didn't actually drop on the previous episode. It's one of those things that, interestingly, we kind of timed our show to be, and this wasn't exactly something that we had planned, but it sort of came to pass that our show was kind of fairly well timed for patch notes to sort of come out on the regular on a Tuesday sort of thing. But so we were kind of last week we were expecting patch notes, and we kind of, we did a Q&A at the end of the show to sort of buy some time for patch notes to drop, and it just didn't happen. So that was kind of funny. Hopefully
Absolutely.
hopefully they're a little bit more on time this week, though. It'll be pretty cool.
Yes.
But we went over a few things on that last episode. Do you want to quickly run through those, or?
Yeah. So we got Outpost Rush a week ago. Outpost Rush being 20v20 PvP instance combat. It is a lot of fun. However, of course, it is broken at the moment. It
Yes.
is still playable. However, there are a number of exploits that people have been using with various weapons that are causing all
Mhm.
kinds of additional problems. Um,
Oh yeah.
which hopefully we'll
And
see
that
those
came
addressed
off.
soon.
Yeah, and that came off the back of Outpost Rush being essentially opened up to us the weekend prior to that as well, and then very quickly kind of going, oh god, like there's some serious issues with it. You need to down it again, like in a matter of hours, sort of thing. So there was this interesting like will they won't they in terms of Outpost Rush, and sort of similar with the server transfers. The server transfers came out. And then they were like, "Oh God, there is a horrendous bug in the server transfer kind of feature that they had to just basically just cancel the server transfer feature for a while, only to obviously bring it back on the Wednesday of last week.
Yes. And of
Yeah,
course, we also last week talked about the state of the economy with Caleb Arenia. It's a great show on basically where the economy was headed when I wouldn't say pre gold dupe because it was happening at that point still.
it
Um,
wasn't as rampant, but
it
it
wasn't
was
as
still happening.
rampant.
But we talk about various different aspects of an economy and what's an important thing, what's not an important thing, what's essentially recoverable and what's not recoverable from, when it comes to economies, in like virtual economies, that is.
Hmm.
Because there's a lot of things that you can do in a virtual economy that you can't do in a real economy, right? And
Yes,
there's some fundament that they redefine fundamentals when it comes to economics in games and in virtual worlds. So yeah, you should check that
absolutely.
out.
And the last thing that we covered last week, aside from our Q&A, where we're biding times for patch notes that never came, or they came about a day later than we thought they would, um, was
Mm.
covering Lost Ark and AGS developments on that and their business model changes for the game. For those that don't know, Lost Ark is another MMO that's under development through Amazon Games in cooperation with Smilegate. However, they're removing much of the pay-to-win features that the game had in it prior, and now they're
Yeah.
functionally making it a westernized version, um, which would be a lot more friendly to the markets other than the places that they currently have it out in.
Yeah, it is important. It's an important sort of, like, we felt it was an important thing to cover from a new world perspective, because it does highlight and showcase new world's like overall perspective on monetization and that kind of thing. And that is something that can be translated towards new world very very easily. Give you insight as to kind of how what their thinking is when it comes to sort of monetization and all that jazz. So it's very important kind of thing to get a good feel for.
Absolutely.
But
Uh,
but yeah, the patch did finally come last
yes,
week,
the patch
and
came and problems came with it. I'd love
oh
to
yeah,
say that they. I'd love to say that they were new problems, but it exacerbated some old problems,
mm-hmm.
um, and opened up even more.
Oh yeah. So we got
QAQC
Outpost
is
Rush.
got a very hard couple of weeks coming for them. Um,
Yeah.
there's a lot of
So the
stuff that
patch.
needs to be answered for.
Yeah. So the patch from last week, we got Outpost Rush. We got the server transfers were available again for us. Um, there were some updates to AOEs when it comes to 50 on 50 wars, invulnerability stuff. Um, some of the other different invulnerabilities, with regards to window mode, client, that kind of thing. Obviously, we all know that spawned a whole bunch of other stuff, um, which came to pass over the past 7 days. We had the faction token caps increase, which is a blessing for anybody who's grinding out those tier 5 faction sets, and obviously company taxation income and stuff were corrected, and people got some money back for housing taxes and purchasing of houses and stuff. But that kind of all got flattened by massive uh massive and abhorrent kind of abuse of duplication bugs that cropped up.
Yes. So
Yeah.
that being our first topic, uh,
Mm.
duplications, exploits, etc. Let's talk about um, how to report them, how to fundamentally make them work. Um, we're not gonna explain like a how to of like here's how you do it, you know.
No, no,
But
that's
what we are
that's
gonna do is
nothing.
talk about like when you find a bug, when you find an exploit,
Hmm.
obviously don't abuse it. Uh,
No.
you know, sounds simple enough, right? Um, that problem has
So, some although
varying
it's
degrees of compliance across the user base.
yeah,
But what you
well,
want to do is you want to
although
report it on the official forums for the developers to start taking action on it. They do read those forums, and that's their way of knowing. For anybody that thinks they're coming to Reddit to see to see what bugs there are, they've got hundreds of pages of bugs on their own forums to dig through. They might look at the top line items for Reddit, but they're probably not going to be looking much deeper than that.
yeah,
If I would,
but uh,
if I had to say what they were doing there.
I'd like to ask though is how can you possibly um, shed light on on a serious or critical issue in the game without showcasing how to do said you know how to replicate said issue or said bug.
In any number of ways, like if you're showing an item dupe, showing hey, I now have two of these legendaries. I had one of them a minute ago. Um, like you don't need to show the process. You can show the process to the development team. Like for instance, the subreddit moderation team has the ability to reach out to the mods directly, or reach out to the devs directly. You know, uh, like that's the thing. That's the
And
thing
you
that we do, and we take all of the bugs that we see and we send them to them. That there's an ongoing discussion there. Uh, it gives them the opportunity to start working on the problem as soon as they see it. But they have to see it. Subreddit mods don't give. Yeah, we do actually.
well, you're literally talking to one, so
Yeah,
and he's literally explaining to you how they
yeah.
do, and that they do see them and send them off to the developers. Like,
Hmm.
so it's one of those cases
Now,
that
we also haven't been taking down posts either, despite the fact that there is a rule on the subreddit not to be sharing exploits. And the reason that that exists is that when you share exploits and make it a widely known problem, and there was a debate here. When you share the exploits and make it a widely known problem, of course it forces the developer's hand into fixing that problem as a priority because you've just destroyed the entire in-game economy. So
yeah.
no crap, they've got to fix it. But on the other hand, you've also given them no time and a much substantially larger problem to fix, including how to trace down all of that gold and what to do with it, and you know, at what level do you stop banning people? Is it people who duped, or the people who made money off of it, or the people that transferred it to? Do you go back and remove transactions? Like what level of things there? Um, how about the mods using dupes? The mods don't use dupes. Like seriously, like look at our stream. Like I'm one of the mods for the subreddit. Look at my stream. Does it look at all like I would be interested in anything that would threaten my ability to play the game. Like, think about that for about 4 seconds, because
Just
that shouldn't come up as even a concept, logically speaking. It's a
yeah.
stupid idea by somebody who is banned for toxic behavior on the subreddit. Like,
The
simply put,
the only
yeah.
yeah.
If you're
If you
if
think
you are
about it
duping,
critically,
you are
just for a moment,
trash, and nobody on the
yeah,
mod team is duping.
if you think about it critically just for a moment, like it makes no sense for anybody who is invested in, the game or invested in the community in some way, shape, or form, like to do something to jeopardize, their standings or their ability to fully take part in that. Like it makes no sense. Like, you know,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't see where that logic is like logical. Like there isn't any logic to that kind of that train of thought.
hmm it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Um, in terms of and the funny thing is, like when it comes to the subreddit, there are, you know, depending on who you ask, we're either all powerful overlords of crap or, completely inept at any kind of moderation. The reality is, we've got varying degrees of activity on the moderation staff. We've got a staff that is way too small that we need to increase, and we're still tuning the auto mod to pick up on more stuff than it is. Yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah. And
So,
I
but
mean
let's stop
that's
talking
just
about the
one aspect.
subreddit. Let's start talking about the game itself.
Yeah,
So
about the actual
obviously,
game.
the economy is in tatters due to this, due to
Yeah.
the duplication issues, which persist. There's still current ones that are active right now, despite the fact that you're not supposed to be able to transfer stuff between players. Currency trading is still in some ways working. Trading coins to other players is still a
In
thing.
some way.
There are
Yeah.
trade issues still a thing. There are issues with town boards causing duplications. There are issues with all kinds of stuff. Right now, the game is in a very rough state, and it would be a bold-faced lie to say anything other than that.
I mean,
Now,
the amount of
there is
holes that
content
that
that you can
seems to be.
play. Like
Yeah.
if you're just leveling up and having and just chilling, you can still run dungeons. You can still do a bunch of things, but the interaction between players is going to be pretty limited. Um,
Hmm.
in terms of transferring items, at least. Uh, so from there, let's talk about Outpost Rush. Outpost
I
Rush
mean,
is the game mode that I've been looking forward to most.
and I've enjoyed a lot of a lot of the gameplay and a lot of the experiences I've had with Outpost Rush. Like, I mean, it's unfortunate that like another bug had kind of surfaced due to it, like and is now pretty much rampant. It's you know uh, Outpost Rush is basically sort of like Hatchets Online, essentially Hatchets and you know Hatchets and Brutes Online, to be honest. Which kind of sucks because it does obviously, from a gameplay standpoint, from a tactics and sort of skill based sort of standpoint, really flattens out the combat system like significantly. um but prior to that, like, yeah, I was having a lot of fun. And
yes,
interestingly enough as well, it was a much needed injection of a much needed injection of coin into the game as well. It was
yes.
actually
Coin
proving to be
and
a
Azoth.
decent coin and Azoth kind of faucet for the game, which was much needed. It just it kind of got flattened by all the duplication stuff that surfaced.
Mm-hmm.
So you know the positives of that game mode being reintroduced were somewhat negated by all of the duplication exploits. It really sucked.
Yes. of which within Outpost Rush there's a duplication exploit as well, leading to one
Yes.
side potentially ending up with enough brutes uh, to summon at every location. Or yeah, and it's
Yeah.
like
You,
you
you
know come
you could find
on.
within like 2 minutes of the game starting that, like, people had brutes on every single every single entrance to every single outpost, which is a bit much, right? It's a bit much for 2 minutes into the game. um
Yeah,
yeah.
that's a bit on the rough side, that's for sure. So you get the hatchet bug there. Um, you know, the
And
we've already hit the economy aspects of this. Uh, EGS moderating players who have taken advantage of coin duplication and ongoing. Uh, so here's the big deal here. Amazon is banning people who were exploiting. Fundamentally speaking, if you duplicated gold, if you duplicated items, you're gonna get some level of ban. Um, you know, now there should be appeals for the people. Like one of the people in chat stated, "Hey, I got banned. I reported the issue." You know, that is actually an important factor. Like you should cite that and say, "Hey, I reported this. I found this problem." Um, and yeah. Um, we've got new news as well, and
Yeah,
there should be bans because there are people out there that you know, oh my god, there are people out there like there's a difference between like, oh, hey, like I ran into this problem, I did it twice to be like, can I repeat this? Like is this like what happened here that like I have more stuff? And then there's the people who ended up with 40,000 vials of suspended Azoth. Like there's a difference in between
and
like having something and
yeah,
abusing that thing. Like if you turn to the
yeah.
devs and
This
go, "Hey, like here's this exploit. Here's the steps to reproduce it." That's great. If you turn around and abuse the crap out of it consistently, then yeah, you should get banned. Um,
and there's finding the reproduction steps by doing things, by reproducing it to a certain level that's understandable. And then there's, you can't turn around and be like, well, yes, I did dupe, 3-4 million coin, or like, 100,000 void bent um ingots, kind of thing. Like, that's abuse. Like, you don't need to do it to that level, to that extreme, and turn around and go like, oh, but it's okay because I was just testing for reproduction steps. Like, no, you at that point there is no way that you could hide behind that particular type of excuse. um you know and
yeah. If you profited off of this, odds are there's going to be rollbacks related to it. Like simply put, there's going to be bans, there's going to be rollbacks, assuming that the AGS development team can't track down, uh, you know, who the beneficiaries of that money were. Is you know from a guy who does data analytics and manages data analytics. I can tell you those kind of things are very easy to find. Um,
mm. I mean,
Obviously, like I don't do
it's going to take time for
game
them to find it
analytics. I
all.
do more workforce analytics for work, but um, still database work, and it's easy enough to find where obvious errors and obvious increase are. Yeah. Um, so that said, we've got a number of other like larger scale news um, um, that I'm
Mm.
going to get to because we've got 4 or 5 other things first before that. Uh, so there's also the HTML chat issues where there was an issue where you could
Oh god, yeah.
basically put a large sausage in chat or flashbang the
I
chat
think
with the
that's
yellow
the
screen.
I think Yeah, I think the large sausage is the most well known one. It's just basically, someone was able to find ways of being able to post images of various different and be able to duplicate kind of sort of or increase the size of those sorts of things in chat. I think maybe not images, but certain things associated with the game kind of things, and change the scaling of them. And so obviously the most interesting example of that was the sausages one, which is actually quite hilarious. But also obviously the issue with uh, client crashes with regards to code injection in terms of into chat was a particularly egregious one, which really kind of sucked.
Yes. Um,
Yeah.
Apologies. I'm in the midst of getting additional news here. Because we have
this
breaking
this
news
just
now.
in.
This
This
just
just
in.
like what are we? What are we a rolling news network now or something?
Yes. This just in breaking
Seems to be
news.
breaking news.
We are going to start with downtime tonight. As of 33 minutes ago, Lexandra,
Hmm.
community manager, has posted that there's going to be a downtime tonight where they're going to re-enable all forms of wealth transfer, including player-to-player trading posts across all regions. Due to the importance of wealth transfers and their impact on the in-game experience, we wanted to prioritize re-enabling these mechanics as soon as possible. Um, Obviously,
And
this is going to take a little bit of time. There's a 3-hour downtime planned for tonight.
yeah,
Um, so, hopefully, this causes some fixes. Like, maybe they've solved this. Like, oh, please, dear God, please have solved this.
hopefully this isn't a we fixed two really or fixed a bunch of really like uh egregious things and then like five other things break at the same time. Hopefully that's not what happens here. Please God. I
Yeah,
couldn't deal with it. But fingers crossed that that this does get fixed because they one of the other kind of aspects of turning off all of these various different wealth transfer kind of mechanics in the game is just people's inability or sort of company own like governors inability to be able to actually pay for certain things in their settlements. Like, I mean, it started to really affect people's ability to keep their settlements, up and keep services that that people kind of want in the game
not to mention
available.
accidentally dupe if they try and do something. Uh,
Yeah, I know, and that's the other thing is there's and that's going to be kind of a difficult thing to figure out, right? Is how many people who are kind of you know accidentally duplicating stuff and are genuinely, not trying to abuse something, and people who are actually abusing it. I guess, in that kind of sense, you can kind of look at it in terms of the scale, right? Because if you're going to be abusing something, generally you tend to abuse it from a fairly significantly large scale. Um, from an yeah, and from the accidentally kind of side of things, and we can't really kind of say quite what's going on, but there is a way to that people have accidentally duplicated coin um, with regards to the company kind of wallet. Um,
doing
you know,
something that is
but
like straight up very
it's just
simple
normal.
with like you would have no idea
Just
that you did
normal.
it until you logged out and logged back in.
Yeah, but
It's
saying
very
anything further
strange.
from that is saying anything further than that is
Yeah.
probably going to give too much information as to how
Yeah.
to do it. So that's where we're stopping
Hmm.
in that regard. But yes, it is entirely possible.
Absolutely. Theoretically, we're going to see patch notes here because there's um,
Sometime soon.
like if they're talking about a downtime, we're going to get patch notes on what they're hoping to fix in it. It's just a matter of when.
Yeah, I mean, Luxandra did say that please note that this is not our regular weekly update. So please stay tuned for information for the status of that update. So that is probably obviously coming down the pipe. Hopefully we have that. Hopefully have that. Very soon. And we don't have to wait an age in order to actually find that, or wait till tomorrow to find out. So.
Yeah. Hopefully, I'm assuming this is basically going to be the fix to markets, which
Oh, fingers
if
crossed.
if
Yeah,
it's the fix to
should be.
markets, then okay, great. And then hopefully there's going to be more. Um, yeah,
Yeah.
it's gonna be an interesting week on that front. That is
Mhm.
absolutely for sure. Um,
Yeah.
I want to hit our next topic here. Um,
Yes.
server client authority.
Oh yeah, yeah. Okay.
So this
We
is a
can
big
definitely
one.
jump on that.
Um, and with Josh Stry Hayes showing up in the comments section or in our chat as well, being listed by users talking about him. Um, there are things that can look like the client has authority over the server. There are things that
Can act like
can
that.
act
Yeah.
like that. And before people say anything about, why would the client have any authority over what the server does, I'd like you to note that a game would not be particularly fun if you never had to input anything into your computer, i.e., you never touched the keyboard, so the server never knew you were doing anything, and you just stood in one spot and looked at the scenery. Um, like, that would be a very
Actually, it's
dull
kind of
game.
funny.
There is some level of client actions that determine what happens on the server side. Now,
What's quite funny actually with that is I remember seeing a Just Drive Hayes video where he plays a game that can literally starts and you literally play it and you don't even have to touch anything. It all auto scripts itself like into doing everything that it needs to do. You can literally just sit there and just watch the game play itself, which is actually kind of funny when with regards to us talking about you know his video where he's talking about how client actions are in some way um, in some kind of strange way you know um, a higher priority than the server, which is I think that's kind of funny.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, now, obviously there is a difference in between client inputs and authority. That said, there are often times where the server might need to wait for input from the player. Um, you know, now the simulation itself should play out on the server, and occasionally things are programmed in a way that isn't optimal for that, where there's a hang up where it's waiting for the client for something. Uh, Now, what should happen is it should time the client out and say, "Hey, we need to continue and just move on." Uh, you know, next time the client is active, apply X, Y, and Z to it, um, and that's that. That you know, basically what was happening is you're entering a state, and the server was waiting for you to exit that state, which shouldn't be. Um, the coding to fix that is actually pretty simple. Just stop waiting for the client. Assume the client has changed back and continue the simulation as otherwise programmed. Um, Now this was a whole thing, the whole bunch of responses. Um, the AGS developers have come out with a whole announcement on the topic, um,
Mm-hmm.
and how the actual client authoritative thing is not a thing, that the server is the thing that is in charge. Um, Frankly, this would be a very, very strange hill for them to want to die on if they were trying to blow smoke. Um, you know, um, Fundamentally, I think this is worth a read for most people because there is a technical aspect to this. Um, Trying to find the actual um, the different link that I'm looking for. Apologies.
Did I not? Did I not put the right link in the doc?
No, I think this is it.
I thought I did.
There's another one too, I think. Can't
Oh,
remember what it
okay.
is. That said, you know,
But
sorry, I'm
the
catching
whole
up on
kind of
something.
server client authority system, it has had rocky road in the past kind of thing, as well. But like, we'll get into that in a little bit. But you know, let's first check out
Yes,
those responses as such.
absolutely.
Hmm.
So basically, the Law Rich, one of the New World devs, comes out and starts talking about this. You know, basically, the server has had some instances where it waits for the client, and when the client goes unresponsive, there's generally across most games, when the client goes unresponsive, most games will just boot you from the game. Like, hey, this is something, the player is doing something, or their computer is no longer responsive. Let's get them out of the simulation. Which is the more common behavior than what happens for New World prior to some of the patches. Um, Sorry, I'm looking at like three different things. Uh,
Yeah, I know you just got distracted by the fact that there was a new tweet on Play New World.
yes.
But it's just the update. It's just the update
Yep.
about the wealth transfers. Don't worry, mate.
Yep. Uh, trying
See,
to make sure that we have up to date
I know,
news. The
I
fundamental of
know what.
this is that
Yes.
you know the fundamental of this is that it is a server side simulation. It's not a client side simulation. The servers have the authority over the client. It's not client authoritative. There were times where the server is waiting for a response from the player, and that was causing problems. Simply put, you know, uh,
But at some
and
point in a game where you have to have some degree of interaction with, the end user, you have to have that state.
mhm.
It's just it's a fact of life. Like,
Mononomo, we're literally talking about negatives, like that there are problems and all of that. So like,
yeah,
I don't know where it's coming
if you
from that we're not. Like,
if you're if
if anything people get from this, it is that obviously New World is in a rough state right now. Obviously, they're trying to fix it. Obviously, people are upset. We're upset. We would like it to be in a more playable state than it is right now.
oh yeah,
So,
just a bit, Jesus.
we are in no way
Um,
thrilled with the current state. I don't think anybody
but
is.
we're not using that, like we're not using the fact that New World is in a really bad state, in a pretty terrible state, as carte blanche to basically just throw out all of the cuss words, all of the foul language, about it, like, because there's
Yeah,
no point. Like, what does that achieve? That doesn't
yeah.
achieve anything. So
hmm basically we want to make sure that we cover the other stuff that is happening. And some of the other stuff is good. You
mhm.
simply put, uh, not everything has gone to shit. Like, despite everybody's complaints, people can still log into the game. They can still level up their watermarks. They can still run most of the dungeons. They can still do all kinds of things. You can still play Outpost Rush. I would recommend using a hatchet, but uh,
I was gonna
unless
say,
you're
like,
like
people can run dungeons, but like if you'll probably get, like, chastised in whichever group you're at if you're not running it with hatchets for whatever reason. So
yeah, it's definitely rough. Like, it's not an ideal state, and
yeah,
I don't think anybody is going to argue otherwise.
Mhm.
There's many of us, 400 hours wasted. Hey, like I'm up there at about 350, 360. You know, uh,
And
but for
that's just
for
in that's
40
in just in this
bucks,
instance.
for 40
Yeah.
bucks, I wouldn't call that wasted. I've gotten
No.
solid enjoyment out of this.
Yeah.
And I know that people are like, "Oh, well, that's not how you measure an MMO." Everybody measures their value and their money differently.
Yeah.
So, for me, I've gotten a lot of enjoyment out of this. I play with a very, very great group of people. Made a lot of really good friends in the process, and there are parts of this that I very much enjoy, and have since it came out, and will continue to enjoy. Are there parts of the game that I obviously think are broken? Absolutely. I'm 100% right there with you. Um, would I tell my
No.
friends to buy the game right now? I literally had somebody buy it yesterday. Because a lot
Probably.
of the problems they're going to run
Yeah.
into are not going to come up in the first 50 hours of gameplay. You're
50,
going to be
100
running your
hours
quest
maybe.
lines. You're going to be running Amarin, running stuff like that. It's there's a lot of content you can do, and I still would suggest it to people. You know, um, yeah.
Yeah.
For those that are wondering, we play on the
I mean, that's
Paralis
fair enough.
server on US East,
Yeah.
so
And
be
that's
more than
actually a
happy to have you guys.
pretty decent server actually as well. Like
It's very
it's
balanced.
been good for us.
Yeah,
It's been
it's
very
very
good for us.
balanced.
Yeah.
Um, so let's talk about dev blogs as well here, because we've got several. We actually got a new one today.
Did we get anyone today?
Yeah,
I missed that.
dev
I
blog
missed
on
that.
PvP War in Territory from Zinramu.
Oh, damn.
So, they wanted to provide an update on the health, status, and vision of PvP War and Territory Control metagame. Before we dive in, I want to apologize for all of the issues we've seen in War so far, because there's been quite a few. Uh,
Numerous, would you would say?
yeah, we're gonna ad lib this as we go through,
Yeah,
because this is
I might add my
obviously a
commentary.
longer, this is a longer one, but um, and thank you for your patience as we work to resolve them. I know there have been some serious lag issues in wars and a number of exploits, including the invulnerability exploits, that have marred your experiences. Yes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you could say that.
Uh, we've made an initial set of changes to address some of these issues and are working on some higher impact changes that need more testing. It is a top priority for the team to get wars into a stable performance state where the skill and coordination of the best team determines the outcome.
Yeah. And, that for that to actually be a very important thing, yeah, you have to get rid of the bugs that people are abusing, but you also have to also do a bit of a balance pass with regards to wars, because some aspects of wars, yeah, are a little bit more controversial than others when it comes to the overall balance. But right now, like that is secondary to just fixing the massively egregious stuff that people are abusing.
Yes. So
Anyway,
let's start by reiterating, keeping in mind that McLeod and I are not developers. We're not part of AGS. We're content creators. Um, you know, we have said, hey, we run a talk show that has 1,000 people plus in the actual chat channel. You know,
and we
feel
very
free
much
to
appreciate that.
you
Like
know
I'm
feel free to come on if AGS ever wants a platform to talk on, um, and chat with the community. We are more than happy to have them at any time. Um, so let's start by reiterating their high level vision. Want to create a game where PvE and PvP not only coexist but support each other. We also want wars, not ganks. Meaning we want to support meaningful PvP in war and the open world conflict between the three factions. So, open world PvP. We feel open world PvP is in an okay position, but has room to improve.
I would I say yes, there is a
Yes.
lot of room to improve. I think that the sort of the general sentiment for the kind of like the PvP stuff, the open world PvP mechanics at the moment is kind of okay. There needs to be some variety for sure. Like, the same three PvP quests constantly does get to be a bit of a bore, a bit of a grind kind of thing. But I think a lot of the intricacies and interesting kind of aspects of open world PvP, as well as 50 on 50s, would be greatly improved if they just fix some of the bugs with regards to all of the different perks, all of the different kind of choices and options with regards to armor and weight classes and all that kind of stuff. So fixing those would add a lot of life to open world PvP, just without even actually having to touch the specific mechanics of open world PvP.
Hmm.
But
So
sorry.
the rewards for flagging and leveling up are good. The 10% bonus XP makes a difference, and the rewards for PvP kills are meaningful. At the end game, however, the rewards for flagging are not good. There are two changes coming in short term that should help this. The first is that we're going to increase the luck of players when flagged. There we go.
Interesting.
Uh, this should be an important and lasting benefit to flagging. Second, we're going to
Yeah.
reduce the durability damage to gear when flagged. Okay,
I would. I mean, that already happens. As far as I know, that already happens. What I would like to see is complete removal of damage to items in your bag if you die.
that would be
Like, that
great.
would be interesting. That would be
Yeah,
really, really good. Because Jesus Christ,
yeah.
do I
So
hate the
this
fact
luck
that like
change is
everything takes
actually really
damage.
big. So for anybody who
Yeah,
knows
that
about the
is.
watermark
It is.
system, grinding gear, um, you know, fundamentally is tied to luck. So you want to grind your gear score once you get to level 60, your grinding gear score over 500, aiming to get as high as it goes. I think it's like 590 something is
Mhm.
the highest drops you can get at the moment. But adding additional luck there is going to make that a lot more likely to see people hit the do that activity flagged, which is going to create content in that high end zone instead of what right now is basically compliance and zerging the content with a number of groups so that everybody can get some benefit, which I think is going to crumble when they increase the luck. Um, which that'll be interesting. That'll be very interesting. Um, Lost my spot.
Yeah.
Uh, this should be an important and lasting benefit to flagging. Second, we're going to reduce the durability damage. Durability damage, I think, is huge. Like I think that
Yeah.
comes at it from the
I would have
opposite
gone a
perspective. Instead of a reward, it's hey, let's make this less painful and
yeah.
less risk, which should increase the number of people willing to do it.
I mean,
Um,
I would have gone a slightly different route with the damage reduction or the durability reduction, but like I like the fact that they're doing that. I mean, I'm not entirely certain whether they're saying that they're fixing something that should have already been there, or that they're further reducing the amount of durability damage that you take, when you're flagged. But I don't know.
all right, this last one, this right here puts meat back on the menu, boys. Level
Mhm.
60s. This is huge news for you. In the medium term, we will also adjust the rewards for PvP kills at 60 so that they will enhance players' high watermark.
See, I was wondering about that, and I was thinking to myself, like in my head, I was like, if they added like PvP kills to increasing your watermark, like that could be really cool, but that could also backfire because people would literally just like, I've seen it in other games, right? I've seen it in other games where people are from one side and the other side go like, oh, we can if we mutually work together, we can mutually benefit by doing this, that, and the other. And I can see people just basically going, well, if I kill you, like I'll get a good chance of increasing my watermark, and then once I die, I'll come back, and then you can kill me, and then we'll just do this repeating process, like over and over and over and over again to increase that watermark. Like,
So they have
but
systems in play for
I
kill
wonder.
trading to reduce its impact. Um,
I hope so, and I
that
hope they don't
currently
get bugged.
exist. So like if
Yeah,
you continually kill the same person right now, um, the rewards for doing so get less and less.
yeah,
So
and I yeah, I do hope that that is very much tied into this system that they're proposing for increasing your watermark. Like if kill trading increases your watermark effectively, like that's going to be the new meta, and that'll be I
mhm.
don't know.
Well, and
I
the other
won't like
aspect of this is
it.
while you're grinding stuff, while you're grinding your gear score in the north, you're also going to be looking at, hey,
Wanting to be PvP flagged.
when another group comes up to grind their gear score, it's going to be a fight because now it's not just the bosses that are going to be increasing your gear score. It's going to be, hey, if we dunk that group over there, we now, we now can upgrade our watermark off of them.
Yeah,
Which
and if it's a
further
significant
enhances
increase.
the incentive to stay flagged and be flagged and create groups, that are more faction
I
based.
mean, if you think of it as a cumulative effect, right? You're flagged, and with regards to the stuff that they want to like add to this, you'll have an increased luck, which also in turn with killing flag players will mean that you are like almost double dipping in terms of that ability to potentially increase your gear score or your watermark. Sorry,
Yep. So,
but
just
with regards
for
to the
those that are
bugs,
curious about the high watermark system,
yes,
that was a system we were going to talk about as well. But I posted the link in chat there. The watermark
right,
system
yeah.
is basically for people over level 60. You now have drops based on individual slots. So, for instance, your helmet is different than your chest, than your arms, and so on. That start at 500. So from
Hmm.
there, you have to push that watermark up and up by getting drops from high level bosses and etc. that will increase that watermark. So for instance, you kill a boss, it now drops a 505 item. So your new high watermark is 505. Over time you need to grind that so it goes up and up, and I believe the cap, as mentioned by chat, was 591 right now. Um, Hopefully they can push that to
I don't think
600.
591 is I don't think 591 is the cap, but I think there is 600s.
Yep.
Maybe
Now
okay, maybe
there
600s
are
don't
other
drop
ways
yet,
to
but
increase your watermark as well. For instance, running expeditions. The two high level expeditions are currently the big ones because they do actually guarantee that you increase your watermark by running them. That said, you're also running a high level orb that there's all kinds of chaos that goes with that. Um, Yeah. So that's kind of an interesting thing. Going back to open world PvP. In addition to rewards, we understand that there's some gameplay issues with open world PvP. Currently, it's hard to know whether players in your faction are flagged or not. Thank God they saw that. Uh,
oh my god, yeah, the issues
like,
with that, Jesus
is this
Christ.
ally flagged? Are they going to help me with this?
Like I
Like,
have, and that's the other thing is like how do you know if you have backup or not? Like you have no idea whether that person who you're running with in open world PvP or running nearby is flagged or not. That can help you in some way, shape, or form, or is willing to help you. 'Cause that's the other thing. Like if you're not flagged, like and somebody in your on your team or on your kind of in your faction is being attacked, like getting back to a place where you can flag and then coming to help, like I don't think there's ever been any instance where coming back and the fight is still occurring that you can come and help. Like I've never heard and I've never experienced any situation where like that has happened and I've got back to somebody who's taking on a dude or some dudes and it hasn't already, like, the fight is already concluded at that point. So just knowing whether that person's flagged or not is very useful, and hopefully they're fixing that stuff. Sounds like it.
Absolutely. So that's a big one. This can make it
Yeah.
difficult to know whether or not you have backup to assess whether you should engage or not.
Hmm.
We're aware of this issue and working on a fix. We also understand combat tactics can be difficult since the visuals for an area effect spells are all the same. Oh, thank God. Please tell me they're going down that route.
Oh,
Oh, please tell me they're going. So it's difficult to understand whether a spell is from an ally or an enemy. Unfortunately, this is not a trivial fix. It will require a significant code update and numerous asset changes. While we
just
agree
colors,
this
just
is an
colors,
issue, this will take
just
substantial
just
work and
just
investigation.
just colors. Just, if it's a spell cast by a covenant dude, just have it as a yellow tinge. If it's a spell cast by, a marauder, just have it as a green tinge. If it's a spell cast by a syndicate dude, just have it as a purple tinge. Like, that's all you need. You
That
just need
takes a
to
lot of
color
if
it.
thens. It takes a lot of if thens because like per
If yeah,
client,
maybe if then, but like,
it changes some stuff. That's the thing here is that standing in healing circles, like this is one of the things they're talking about. Standing in healing circles, you have no idea which one. Like if you're in a war and you're on the point and there are 15 of those things, you have no idea which ones are yours and which ones are the enemies.
oh
This
yeah,
is
the
going to be a colossal change to that. Not
part
to
part
mention
of
like ice
part of the
storms,
yeah
which is ours, which is theirs. This is going to be
part
huge.
part of the reason why, like, I prefer running like a live staff as a secondary to a main weapon. I have interchangeable weapons in that regard, but like, one of the reasons why I run with a live staff in my secondary is literally so I can put one down before I engage and know for certain at least I have, two AoE kind of heals going that I'm certain are friendly in some way, shape, or form.
Hmm.
Like, it's one of the reasons.
Now that said, I disagree with the placement of this fix being in the open world PvP category. Because I think that the actual the groups of people that are going to be benefiting from this most are going to be wars and Outpost Rush, because that's where you have a lot more of the AoE spam, where both sides are throwing out heals and both sides are throwing out AoE, of all kinds of things. Um, you know, that said, I think that this is a positive change. I'm looking forward to when this does get implemented, and it shows that frankly they're listening. At bare minimum, it shows that. Now it's about can they deliver on this without breaking other things? Like that's we are 100% in the same boat as everyone else with that. Where like great change, but let's hope to get this fixed and resolved in a way that doesn't break anything else. Um, so that's a big one. Let's talk about wars. Um, as stated above, the lag and exploits in wars have hurt the experience. With a patch coming out this week, most of the major issues should be resolved. Keeping in mind that this is 3 hours old, so hopefully they're referring to the patch that's happening either tonight or the patch that's going to potentially happen later this week, because it sounds like the patch that's happening tonight is basically market stuff, and then they're going to be pushing a
Yeah,
different build later on.
maybe. I would have thought maybe they would have, utilized the downtime to do a patch. But maybe they don't want to do too much in at one go, and not try and figure out whether, fixes or errors were down to, the issues that they had with, doing a fix for wealth transfers, or whether it's, the content, or like a different patch.
Mm-hmm.
You never know.
So
So
this is an interesting
makes
one.
sense.
There have been some complaints about wars happening too often. There's a 24-hour cooldown between wars. With the war windows, that means war happens at most every 2 days per territory. Players can also delay that through the influence race, which is now much more viable since they fixed the scaling influence issues. Very true. Because it used
if
to
the
just be
scaling
get 10 people
influence,
and put them all in after they
yeah,
finished something, and poof, it was in conflict again.
yeah, if the scaling that you have makes people think that there is a bug, then there's an issue with your scaling.
Yeah.
Because that was the
Um,
problem.
Overall, we think that war every 2 days is a good cadence. But please continue to let us know what you think. Uh, we're seeing war fatigue from factions which funnel a group of players into every war. While we love this cooperation, having one company or one company's worth of players own multiple territories should be very hard and not what we are balancing war cooldowns toward. Basically, if your faction is like ours, and we very frequently use a lot of the same players for wars, um, and you're constantly at war, you've got wars every night, it is very difficult to continue to get all of those people on, and they're not balancing around that because obviously 50 people every day doing the same thing is not what they're aiming for. They're aiming for more people to get involved in that process.
Yeah.
So, makes sense. We're also continuing to review balance within war. Defenders are winning more often than attackers, which is what we want. Currently, defenders win around 80% of wars. Interesting. We want to reward defending companies that build up their ranks and upgrade their forts, but we will keep an eye on balance as we resolve the major exploits and make sure that both sides have a fighting chance. We know that communication and coordination in war is not optimal at the moment. It's hard to know what roles participants in a war have chosen, so it makes coordination difficult. We will begin investigating ways of addressing these issues, but don't have anything planned for the near term. My hope is that they add, something like here's the person's primary 2 weapons, so that you can get an idea of where to place people and how to build out the different teams.
Yeah. I think there
More
was a fair
information on
amount
the
of
war
different.
screen would be very valuable.
Yeah. Being able to know at a glance without like mousing over people as to what their company is, just like say for example, just company logo would be really useful as well.
Yes. Buff hatchets. Sorry. I'm sorry, no.
Haven't you heard?
Yeah. Uh, no.
Yeah,
Right
we
now,
know the
hatchets are in a
GUI.
great spot. They need to
Yeah.
remove
Maybe
the obvious exploit that's currently attached to them.
yeah, maybe it's a little bit too good right now.
Yeah.
But,
So let's talk about territory control. Overall, we're seeing territories change hands with decent regularity. As stated above, we want that to favor the defender, and seeing a good spread between factions on most servers. We do have 2 systems in place to help with faction balance. We allow players to switch factions, but don't allow them to switch into the dominant faction. We also increase the influence underdog factions earn for PvP faction missions, to give them better chance at earning the right to declare war. Okay, hey, that's cool. Sorry, obviously, like I'm drinking, an energy drink here to, because people complained in the pre-show that I was out of it, a little tired.
Yeah.
All right. There is a period comma in here as well, but we may need to do more. We're watching faction balance on all servers, and if it becomes a general problem, we have a few ideas to help resolve it in interesting ways. We're also aware that some territories, looking at you, Everfall, produce a ton of tax income, while other towns can be much harder to support and upgrade. We own Cutlass Keys. I can vouch for this 100%. We can barely afford to throw in an upgrade, let alone, like, actually make money off of the territory. And we're not about to increase taxes.
Especially at this particular point in time, throwing up an upgrade is literally not possible, and yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, not a good thing.
There is a change coming soon that will help distribute a main tax income stream to every territory. Hello, color me intrigued.
Interesting.
Um, we want to review the impact of this change before we make further changes, but there are some other changes we could make in medium term if this is insufficient. Personally, I think the territory maintenance costs could just go away. Like, you know, we're
just,
already doing
just
town
bye
board.
bye.
Like, just make it a town board thing that you got to do so many of
Who
these
are we
things, and then
paying
you're
this
done.
to? Who are we paying this to, and what are we getting in return for it? Like
Yeah.
what?
Like, why is there the consistent town upkeep quest on the town board if it doesn't contribute towards paying that, right? Like, there's a lore
Yeah.
reason that that could just be a thing. Because that like no kidding, that accounts for actually a substantial amount of any income. Like our territory pulls in about 20 to 30K per period.
Yeah.
But each time we go to pay it, we're losing 25K. You know, so it's one of those things where it's like we don't come out anywhere near ahead. Um, that said, we've had our
Yeah,
eyes on
and
potentially taking Everfall or Windsward because like it would be nice
the
to
the
actually have a territory that makes money.
yeah, and we know that, like, when it comes to sort of territory taxes and that kind of thing, it doesn't affect too many people's gameplay. But like, you know, when Everfall and Windswood makes like such huge bank with regards to taxation, um, you know, there's a degree of of creating uh, exceptionally wealthy companies and their ability to be able to do a lot of things by using their force of currency to do what they want to do is kind of it's kind of awkward. Redistribution in some way, shape, or form would be interesting. So long as I just hope that like it is in some way logical, not just like some kind of random change that doesn't make sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. So territory control. Really? Really
No, we
now?
already did that.
Sorry,
No.
dogs barking in the background. um, so territory control. Uh, let's see. Where was I?
You were third paragraph. I think we did the second paragraph, on to the third.
Yep. As a last bit of good news for all the territory flippers out there, there are some new PvP mission types coming into the game soon. Thank God.
Yay!
Uh, these changes serve
Specific
two
PvP mission
purposes:
types.
adding some much needed variety to the PvP missions, thank God,
Oh, thank God, yeah.
and helping to distribute the PvP action to multiple locations to spread out some of the large PvP zergs we're seeing. Thank God.
Well, so the interesting thing is there's been a lot of there's been a lot of situations in certain places where the um PvP zergs, like large zergs, have basically been caught unawares into a trap and just basically been completely nuked. And I love seeing those situations, and I love, I love it when the situations like that are laid to for creative types to present that kind of situation, that like that option to happen. Like there's been there's certain like there's certain examples I'm thinking of, like some of the sort of um some of the missions in, for example, Everfall. Like there's a variety of different ones, but if there's a situation where a PvP mission forces a Zerg to be in a close proximity to each other in a situation or in a location where other players of a team can be hiding and can launch a trap, that's good. I think that's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
More of those, please. More of those. Not more of those specific missions, but more of those. More missions that provide that opportunity. would be really, really good.
Exactly. Uh, and just spreading things out, because like this is going to make it so that not everybody gets the same 3 quests, and it's going to push them to go and split up, because hey, this group now has quests over here, but this they've also got people that got quests over here that no longer are shared as a big blob.
Yeah,
So I think that's good.
or at least or cause situations where being in a big blob is, you know, gonna end in a lot of dead people, a lot
Mm-hmm.
of dead people of your own. Like, if the big blob, if the big kind of zerg of people end up getting, funneled into a narrow passage and then just gets just basically eaten alive. Fantastic, because those psychologically force groups to rethink and split up or do
Mm-hmm.
things a different way.
Absolutely. So
So yeah.
that's going to be good for territory control. Get a few more mission types in there. I'm looking forward to that. Because obviously running a territory, we occasionally have to run them in order to fight fight the good fight. Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So beyond that, we had another story that I actually felt was really really interesting because of its source more than anything else. Um, a former Amazon Games developer uh, went on Twitter and
Yeah.
provided us with
Yeah.
some very interesting insight into the development of. Um,
Sort of the server architecture and like networking and that kind of stuff
so,
or just sort of almost like like a general sort of overview of how the game from a architectural sort of standpoint was put together.
mhm,
And although this isn't current, this isn't the way that he talks about like how it's developing isn't current because he's not uh, a member of the dev staff anymore, and he hasn't been for a while, obviously. You know, certain things have evolved since when he finished, um, but it gives you a good example and a good idea as to how complex and convoluted game development is, and how sometimes the uh, the game as it's presented to us, to us, to you guys, sometimes isn't entirely the product of the developers that are working on it at the moment.
mhm.
But
And
yes, let's jump into it.
and for anybody that says we don't cover the negatives, like there is
Yeah,
a sizable portion of this that is not uh, does not
doesn't
paint
look
many
good.
people in the studio well.
No,
So like, uh,
and
I
some
hope people
pretty
learn to
pretty
count this
big
in the
dudes.
category of like us providing fair coverage on everything, because this is actually really important news. It's really good insight. Um,
Yeah,
and
and
it
and
provides some
it's
stuff
not
that a lot of
exactly
people don't know.
it's not exactly taking shots at mid management either. It's it says some pretty unflattering things, or to some very high level dudes. Anyway,
Yes.
let's check this out.
So, sometime before he joined Amazon in 2016, Amazon had bought CryEngine, with
Yeah, and if you
quotations
guys
around
don't
bought.
know, yeah, if you guys don't know what CryEngine engine is, it's the engine beyond that was built and developed for Crisis.
Mhm. So, they then took this and built 2 competing internal engines on top of it. Uh, a lot of the stuff that when it comes to development, you take an existing product and then you build on it until it becomes unrecognizable. Um,
Hmm.
so coding in Lumberyard, for instance, is very different than coding um, in CryEngine, um, because of
Yeah.
a lot of the additional modules, a lot of the additional work that's been done to it. It's almost unrecognizable. Um,
What was the? I can remember that there was a game made with the Frostbite engine. The one that's used for Battlefield, right? And it was laser honed, laser designed for, specifically for first person shooters and Battlefield. And someone, I can't remember which developer, tried to make a game completely different to it. And they tried to make it. Yeah, I think it was Anthem. Yeah, I think it was Anthem. They tried to make a whole bunch of different things that it was not designed, purposely built for it, and it just failed so badly because it wasn't designed for it. Um,
Yeah.
kind of the same sort of feel, I think.
Yeah.
Hopefully not with the same end state.
So first let's describe what a game engine is. So the game engine is the software framework that you build and create video games on. So fundamentally, it's going to include, everything from rendering to physics engines to all of the above. Like, there's a whole bunch of things that it encompasses, but it's basically the software framework in which the game is built on. Can also be combination included all the way down to the syntax of what programming language it's written in, because the different engines require different things or different coding. For instance, you can have a Python-based engine. For instance, like EVE Online has a Python-based engine. Or you can have C++ versions, and you can layer multiple different types of code as well, depending on what you're doing. Things in program development get very, very tricky, but I hope that answers the basics of what the engine itself is. That said, they're highly adjustable, they're highly modifiable, and oftentimes create additional things. So they decided, after they bought the CryEngine, that they're going to build two competing internal engines on top of it. One of them would become Lumberyard, and one that the games team used, of course, because that's obviously what New World is based on. The reason for the two forks is that Lumberyard was replacing basically all of CryEngine, which was terrible, with new code. But the games team needed to get to work building games. So Crucible, New World, and Breakaway used some existing code that Double Helix had. This existing code, called GameCore, had never been shipped and was built for another game, and used the CryEngine networking as its bottom layer. But then built some replication logic on top of it, and yes, it was client authoritative. Now, that doesn't mean it currently is, for those that want to jump on that one.
Don't jump too early. There's more.
Yeah. GameCore's networking was a trash fire. I swam around in it once and tried to fix a bug, and I don't remember any specifics, but I do remember thinking that just about everything they did was the most complex way that they could have done it. Which,
so sometimes if you're trying to build scalability to something, you can go too far, right? We might want it to have it go this way. We might want to have it go that way. We might want to go this way. We might want to go, if we want to build a game to do this or a game to do that. Like, sometimes when you're building all of those potential avenues, you make something so complex that it just becomes a nightmare to work with.
I'm pretty sure somewhere in the networking loop they had a recursive graph search through entities to resolve some dependency. As somebody who does data analytics and stuff like that, that's funny to me. That's not what that's not what you want to do if you don't have to do it.
that meant nothing to me. So
we don't have a long enough show to explain that as a concept, but fundamentally that's not something you really want to do.
Out there, if you get it, then that's your in joke there for the show.
Anyway, there was a fourth game team you probably don't know about, codenamed Nova. They were eventually canceled, but they didn't use GameCore. They saw that GameCore would be difficult to build on, so they semi-secretly built their own entity system and networking layer using Cry and Lumberyard as the rendering layer. As far as the networking layers go, Nova was pretty good. Not only was it server authoritative, but it could support shafted servers, where each server could be responsible for a given geographic area, but could still tell its clients about entities in other servers and areas. This is
Nice.
fundamentally something that should sound very familiar when it comes to New World, because you'll notice there are no load screens as you go around. That is because you're actively moving around through different server nodes, and that's actually what they're talking about there. So clearly, some of that code made it over to New World. They did this because it had a very large world. Anyway, they were canceled, but they had built some pretty cool tech, so some people on Nova went off in search of another team to adopt their code. Crucible was having a lot of problems with GameCore and its client authoritative model, so they adopted Nova's code. Crucible spent about a year and a half rebuilding the entire game under NovaNet. Artists worked on another branch the whole time, and designers had basically nothing to do for a year, which that's rough.
That is pretty rough.
That's always rough. New World was faced
When
with the
you're
decision on
creative,
whether to move to NovaNet.
yeah.
I wasn't on New World, so I don't know the details. But I don't really blame them when they decided not to share Crucible's pain.
Yeah, that's understandable.
New World had already rebuilt the game from scratch once. It was originally less MMO and more Rust-like. For anybody that played Alpha 1 and saw some of the press stuff from 2018, 2017, the game played and it literally had base building and all of that was very similar to Rust. PvP on all the time. There was a punishing system for criminals. That if you were a criminal, you dropped full loot, but everyone else did not. So when people talk about New World being full loot, it was only if you were a criminal that was applied to you as a punishment, not as a consistent thing. New World had already rebuilt their game from scratch once. It was originally less MMO and more Rust-like, and by all rights, Crucible should have been cancelled rather than rebuilt. Hindsight 2020, Crucible definitely should have been cancelled instead of rebuilt. Seeing how long Crucible lasted. I mean, before it was actually cancelled full. Then faced with the choice between spending millions delaying the game for another year or two versus accepting a client authoritative bugs, it's very easy to say, okay, let's just be very careful. The root cause of the problem here is nothing to do with any decisions that anyone currently on New World made. They're doing the best they can with the cards that were dealt, and it looks like they're doing a good job. Keep in mind, this is somebody that used to work for them and doesn't currently work for them. The root cause, in my personal view, is that when AGS was new leadership, who had little experience in games, had no experience in the risk of choosing bad tech to build games off of, and didn't get their technology or listen to warnings of seniors and principals. Which
listen to your experts.
Listen to your experts. I had a boss back in the day, a political appointee type, who, first thing that he did when he came into the office was, you guys are the experts. Guide me to the right answer, because I don't have the right answer. That's the route you need to go with for leadership. So it's unfortunate to hear that there was problems with that. It's been rehashed a lot, but it mostly comes down to Mike Frazzini.
Mike
Frazzini.
Mike Frazzini. Yeah.
VP of Games. His attitude was that we could invent our way out of the problems of those code bases iteratively. It's an attitude that works in the microservices world of AWS, but not in games. A story, and keeping in mind these are We're just reading what this guy's opinions are. Sorry about how clueless Fraz was about the topic. We're at a Friday beer party around the time Crucible was adopting NovaNet, and Fraz was excited about it. He told me something like, "This is very cool tech. It has a big new value proposition." Seemed like something. Seemed like was considering spinning NovaNet out into a new product or something. I wanted to say, Mr. Fazzini, there's nothing in NovaNet that hasn't existed since Quake World in 1997. Century, 1997.
Yeah.
But looked at our studio director, a very smart guy, and he said nothing, so I smiled. So anyway,
I'm like, oh.
So anyway, the answer to how does a multi-billion-dollar company making games in 2021 write a client authoritative code is game development is very complicated. Please be kind and patient to the New World team. They've been trying to fix this problem for like 8 years. To be clear, when I said their code is client authoritative, that was a bit inaccurate. For people who are following along, that's an important statement. They built their game on an engine that allows client authoritative code to be written, but I'm sure they're writing their code server authoritatively. But sometimes mistakes are made, which we've seen, where occasionally there's been delays caused by clients causing hangups that the server then doesn't process stuff because it's waiting on the client, which can happen.
It ends up with a timeout, and then
that's different from if your networking architecture doesn't allow for any client authoritative code to be written unless you jump over a ton of hurdles, which is how NovaNet and Quake World Half-Life Source worked. I think at this point, this guy is very quickly identifying that this has blown up well beyond what he thought it would.
Oh yeah, no, he definitely did. He was like, "Oh, I probably shouldn't have said all of this," but
I'm hoping he doesn't have an NDA, because if he does, that's going to be a hard time for him. I should also say that the New World team worked on their networking stack for a long time between when I saw it and when they shipped, and I'm 100% sure that it is way better than the code I saw. I wouldn't be surprised if the game core netcode was completely replaced. Dear New World community team, I'm so sorry I didn't realize this would get so big. I hope it didn't make your jobs any harder.
But that's
the last one. Yeah,
it's a very valuable look behind the curtain, though.
Absolutely. Fundamentally, people need to remember that 1, Amazon is new. 2, they'd never run a game studio before, and they wanted to try different things, which makes sense. That said, game development is highly complex. Also, even within a lot of what he said, hey, although things were a certain way back in 2016, 2017 when he worked for the company, they may not be the same as they are now. As we know, throughout the development of New World, many things changed and many things required fundamental rewrites of a lot of the engine. I think that's of substantial value. I hope that people enjoyed that kind of background. We saw this and felt, hey, this is something that definitely needs to be covered. It's definitely important.
Yeah, for sure.
And I'm going to do the classic Twitch streamer stuff for a moment here. If you guys like that we dig up stories like this, if you like the additional context, if you like the stuff that we're providing, the content that we build, please hit the follow button. If you have the Twitch Prime, hit that Prime sub. It really does do a lot. I want to take a moment to thank our Patreons, all of our supporters across the board, because legitimately, you guys are the reason we do this, and we like bringing content like this to you guys. It really is something that we aim for. We are not the studio. We do not
No.
work for Amazon Game Studio. We are content creators that are basically focused on providing up-to-date information to the community. So that's our goal. We would also like to build this to the point where we can get some Amazon devs on and have conversations with them. So the bigger we get, the better that
More
hopefully
likely
gets.
that's going to happen. Yeah.
And hopefully they come out of their bunker soon, because I know
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to having conversations with them. I think that it's going to be it would be a great opportunity for them to explain a lot of things and have some of the back and forth that would be really kind of cool. That said, this is an open invite to any Amazon game developer. You guys are more than welcome on the show at any point in time. Feel free. I'm about as easy to get a hold of as anybody. So, because I know there's several of them in chat at the moment. We're probably panicked that we're covering what we're covering.
The insights of a former developer.
Yes.
Yeah. Hey, but you have to roll
Yeah.
with the punches.
So, simply put, great times. Obviously the game's having some trouble at the moment, but there's good stuff happening out there. There's good, there is still content to be played. There is still things that very much work. We're getting a patch tonight, which I believe is focused on the market issues, and then it looks like sometime later this week we're going to get an additional patch.
Yeah, I think they've been hard at work, like solving that the wealth transfer issues and all the kind of bugs, all the duping bugs kind of thing. Hopefully they're all sorted by this patch. You never know. Fingers crossed, but you never know, right?
Mm-hmm. So, patch-wise, keeping in mind this is localized to East Coast. It's going to be 11 p.m. East Coast time, starting today. So things are going to come down, and they're going to start fixing them. It's going to be a 3-hour delay, or it's going to be a 3-hour downtime. So basically, U.S. time zone's gonna take the brunt on this one.
Yep.
It looks like they're trying to rotate through the time zones so that not everybody gets shafted every time there's a downtime, or not one consistent time zone gets shafted, because it can be pretty brutal. I also want to take a moment and say, thank you to the New World Fans team and the Studio Loot team, and I want to congratulate Redbird and BDLG, who today I believe was their first full-time day as streamers. So
Yeah,
they officially cut ties, and they are content creators full-time now, which is huge news, and a great congratulations to them. It's great working on the team with them, and I'm excited for their future in content creation. So
I need to double check. I think Taken might also be going full-time as well. I'm not entirely certain, but maybe I'll need to double check that.
And him too.
But
for people that don't know, Taken, Redbird, BDLG, were some of the prime guys. They're the trios that made Studio Loot and are the true backbone behind newworldfans.com.
Yeah.
Which I would highly recommend people check out. It's great website, tons of guides and maps and etc. that it really does have value to people.
So it's a great resource for sure.
Absolutely. That said, I also want to thank everybody for being here. There are a lot of you in chat. It's great to have you guys here. We want to keep this conversation going. Obviously, we only have so much time on the air, and the show can only be so long, and we want to make sure that we, continue to chat with you guys, because really, you guys are the reason we're here. So please feel free to join the Discord, and just chat with us. We'll be in public chat voice 1. If you wanna chat and have fun, feel free to join after the show ends. The link is right there.
Mm-hmm.
And until then, that is all of the content that we have planned for tonight. If you guys have additional questions, again, feel free to drop into the chat. And again, thank you all for the epic amount of support. It's been a great night, and till then, we'll see you guys in the new world.